welcome back to episode 83 of Tall Boy Radio. Before we get to talking about whatever it is we're going to be talking about tonight, let's do what we always do and introduce our hosts. Andy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Howdy. I'm on the old delirium red in a delirium glass.
Oh.
And I managed to wait a whole 10 minutes from pouring it till we started recording. So I'm doing well.
Yeah, that's restraint. That is restraint. You've done better than me.
There's teeth marking the desk now, though.
100% better than what I would have done. Yeah, I'm on taxi duty tonight for my daughter, who is round at friends, apparently watching the season finale of Love Island. So I'm drinking an espresso out of a Lego mug. There you go. So it might be the first for me, actually, not going to be on the podcast, but like I say, dad duty's cool, so I'll be picking up Amy later, so can't drink.
It's not the first, actually. You drank coffee when you did Stoptober.
Oh, correct. Yes.
Yeah, you did a couple of weeks.
Correct,
where
I did.
He told us he wasn't drinking.
I did do Stoptober, or certainly the majority of Stoptober. Anyway. And what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer called 4 Pure, and it is a citrus double IPA, and it's a punchy and tropical 8.3%. And I'm drinking out of a horn, but I'm not gonna lie, dude. I don't know if it's the horn that's affecting the flavour or the taste, but I had one of these before, and it was an absolute gem. Really fruity, tasted a mango. Out of the horn, not so much. Good. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's that, maybe it's not.
Maybe.
So we're back for another week. We're back for another episode. But again, it's another week, another format for us, isn't there? We're trying something a little bit different, aren't we?
Yeah, we've had a little bit of feedback, and I think on the back of a couple of episodes where we've had guests on and stuff, I think we're sort of just going to try and change it up and just see where the podcast takes us. Just, what is it we want to talk about? Is there anything specifically that we want to mention, and then get the other guys' thoughts on it? So again, a little bit of a change up. Hopefully you guys out there will enjoy it. Keep listening, and we'll see where we go. Even if it doesn't work, I'm sure we'll change it up again in the not too distant future again. But yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll see where it goes.
For me, I think I had a bit of a moment of epiphany on the podcast last week. We had Todd and Johnny on, and we'll probably talk about it in a little bit because that was an outstanding episode, I thought. And we talked. Well, you mentioned actually about the type of podcast that we wanted to produce in terms of three guys sat down, grabbing a beer and talking and having a genuine conversation. Yeah. And I think truthfully, over the past 81 episodes, if we don't count last week, it's not something that we've really done. Now, we changed things up recently, didn't we? And we started talking about beer on the basis of some feedback that we had off Facebook. But ultimately, when we thought about it, it's about making the podcast that we want to make, and hopefully people will listen to that. And I think that's important, to make it authentic, to make it genuine, and to make it a genuine conversation, because in the past it's probably been a little bit more planned than we ever intended it to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there were times when we in the past we'd pick a topic, we'd go away, we'd sort of, as I did with our research, we'd then come back and talk about it. And I mentioned last week, sort of talking to Todd and Johnny, that I wanted the podcast, and in my mind the podcast will work best is if me, Ad and Andy, we head down to London to watch an NFL game, we've got a couple of beers, we're sitting in a pub, and somebody just hits record. It's that type of, what would we be talking about? What would we be discussing? Is it something on the TV? Is it something that happened last week? Is it something that happened last month? Is it an interest that we've got? Is it your opinion on something? Andy's opinion on something? Is that the same as mine? So that was not the banter, but that was the flow of the podcast that I was thinking, yeah, we need to get to that. And I think we maybe tried it, but it was very much, right, guys, you do your 10 minutes, Andy, you do your 10 minutes, Adam. And then we moved away from that. We were talking about beer, but it seemed very much like you have a go, I'll have a go, you have a go. And I don't want that. I want it just to, if someone's got something to say, you jump in, it's just a conversation.
100%, dude. And I think you're quite right there to say that as well. And actually, interestingly enough, one of the things that came out of the podcast last week, obviously there's that genius story that Johnny Simo told us about the hot pockets. Obviously the key part about that is obviously he knows when Tiddy and China are recording, so he starts messaging. I swear to God he knows, because I've got messages popping up from Johnny Simo right now. I just hope he's not sending any suspect photos through.
And for our regular listeners, if you haven't managed to catch episode 82, which was the last one with Todd and Johnny. And again, thank you to you guys for coming on. You really need to. It was an absolute blast to record it. I've listened back to it, and again, I was laughing.
Yeah.
And again, laughing at some of the stories, but also laughing at the reaction of some of us to hearing the stories as well. So, if you haven't had a chance to go and listen to last week's, get yourself along and have a listen, and I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed.
No, it was a good one, wasn't it, Andy?
Oh yeah, you have to watch on YouTube as well for the picture reveal from Johnny.
But the thing is, it was the picture reveal from Johnny, and then it was like Todd's like proper, like proper reaction as well, and the still that we've got of just brilliant.
He loved that Johnny had stitched himself up, didn't he? He loved it. He took way too much pleasure out of that, didn't he?
It was brilliant, and obviously we're hoping, and I know that Johnny's been in touch with Adam, and we're hoping to receive maybe one or two goods from America, which will be fantastic. And again, if you haven't heard the podcast from last week, go and have a listen and see what it is that we're talking about. And then the only other thing really was a big shout out to them again, just for, and I know they mentioned last week about time difference and stuff, but shout out to them again, just for, that might not be their normal time recording. No. It certainly wasn't ours, but, as Todd said, when you've got a couple of people from different countries or different podcasts trying to come together, there needs to be a little bit of sort of organising, and, the time that we wanted to might not fit it in with them and vice versa. So just big hats off all around. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great episode to record. Hope the listeners enjoyed it. Minimal feedback so far from Todd and Johnny. They enjoyed it. So what?
Well, that's it. See, we only really dropped it this morning, the audio version. Yeah. Because we're recording this on a Monday night. We're recording it a day early. But actually, I'll tell you, someone else who's been in touch with me today, suggesting another idea for a podcast. A certain biggest Tidius of the Tiddy and China show, pitching an idea for Tallboy Radio, the Toddcast, and the Tiddy and China show to do a meet-up in Vegas.
I'm sure I can get that past the wife.
Yeah. Well, I did say travel to the States at the moment is prohibited, I think, actually.
I'm not sure.
Out of the UK.
I don't know.
I certainly know. I mean, I know you're a massive Morrissey fan, as is Andy. But he's doing a gig in Vegas on Sunday, which I would love to have gone to. The last gig that he did in Vegas, actually, someone kindly streamed it on what's that one that used to be Twitter? Twitter used to have Periscope. Yeah. So someone streamed it on Periscope, so I got to watch it. So hopefully someone will be kind enough to do that again. But I'd love to go. But yeah, a lot of Brits who bought tickets for that have to sell them. Can't get out there to go to it, and that would suck big time.
Yeah, well, as listeners to the podcast will know, Morrissey is not one of my favourite artists. I certainly wouldn't be rushing over to Vegas just to go and see him. I might like to go rush to Vegas, but not necessarily to go and see him. But Andy, what are your thoughts? I'm assuming you're not a massive Morrissey fan either.
He's done some classics like Bob the Builder. Always got to get that in.
Yeah, different Morrissey, dude. Different Morrissey.
I'd be up for that.
What was the other one that he did? What was the?
Neil Morrissey.
Was it Men Behaving Badly?
Men Behaving Badly.
Was that Morrissey as well?
It was. Yeah. Again, it was a different Morrissey.
So you'd be up for going to a Morrissey concert?
I think you have to try everything once, but that's done some good songs.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I might need a few drinks.
Yeah.
I might have a few burgers in my pocket as well.
Oh, dude, not there though. You can't get them. If you go into the venue, no meat, dude.
I have to make a T-shirt made out of ham or something like that and start nibbling it as well.
Well, funnily enough, that I've seen him in Stoke, and he didn't perform in Stoke for years because the last time he was there, someone chucked a sausage at him.
It's usually a weekend for Stoke, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's just normal, it's just perfectly normal.
Absolutely. No, and I sort of get it. Look, he's obviously very staunch in his opinions and his views, and you know what? Who's anybody to sort of say that individuals? I'm certainly not going to say individuals are not entitled to their own views and opinions and stuff. So if that's what he says, then and that's his belief, and that's what he wants, then
I'm not really in a position to comment, given the fact I'm drinking my beer out of a cow horn.
There is that, but look, it is right. Would I go to Vegas? Yes, absolutely. If the only reason to go was Morrissey, not sure. There's obviously lots of other things to do in Vegas.
There is.
Which, yes, would tickle my fancy.
Well, yeah, you pay extra for that, though, dude. But, but yeah, if we could do, I mean, that's pie in the sky stuff, isn't it? Tiddy and Shiana, Toddcast out in Vegas. I tell you what, that'd be epic, wouldn't it? That's stuff for dreams.
It would be a good long weekend, put it like that. I'm not sure you'd remember the long weekend, but it would, yeah.
It will be on film, though. That's the thing.
Oh, listen, just get Johnny Simon on to tell us the stories. He doesn't pull any punches. He'll show you the photographs.
And the fact that he doesn't drink alcohol now.
Exactly.
He's obviously going to be compos mentis. So he's going to be around to be able to record and capture everything, I'm sure. So, but yeah, look, I would I go and see Morrissey? As Andy said, try everything once, I suppose.
Dude, you'd love it. You'd love it. You've got to open your mind to these things.
I'm not so sure. But hey, I'm sure you can twist my arm in another 82, 83 episodes and we'll go from there.
I think so.
But no, look, he's obviously got fans. Whether or not the fans, whether or not they would travel or he's going to pick up an American audience, don't know.
He's huge in America, Morrissey's. Huge. Very, very large, funnily enough, amongst the Hispanic community. And obviously he lived in LA for a long time. So
yeah. I didn't know that. So yeah, so obviously gives them an opportunity to go and see him. So fair play. That's
it. Speaking of going away, though, dude, you just come back from Greece. We never even mentioned that last time.
No. So spent 10 days in Crete. So on one of the Greek islands. It's absolutely lovely. It was hot. There was lots to drink. There was lots to eat. What more could a man want? So yeah, no, it was lovely. We were fortunate enough. Obviously, we had the opportunity to go. We went. We had to jump through a couple of hoops. You do PCR test 2 days before you go. That was a bit of a weird one. So you do your test. You then got to effectively, was it Randox that the company's called? They're one of 80 odd companies that are on the Gov website or whatever. So you do PCR test. You've then got to go and drop it into effectively like just a physical drop box. You just push it through. It then gets taken to, I think their lab is in Ireland, so then gets shipped to Ireland. And then I think they said that within 48 hours, you get your results, or it might be 24 hours before you're due to go, you get your results. But I was doing a bit of research, and there's some absolute horror stories where people sort of turn up to the airport not having had their results back yet. And obviously it was a condition of you flying that you've had the results. Yeah. So literally there's people there waiting, bags packed at the airport, effectively waiting for the check to say your results are negative and here's your confirmation. And as soon as they got that, they're like, right, board, and off you go.
Bloody hell, fire.
So we were due to fly, I think it was about 3:15 in the afternoon, and we received emails sort of early or late, depending on how you look at it, the previous night. So we woke up and the emails were there saying the negatives. So say, okay, that's fair enough. So we could go. But Jenny, my wife, was apoplectic at times. She lost sleep. She's like, what if it's one of them is negative? If one of them's negative, you just lost your holiday. And then you obviously had to do one 2 days. The girls had to do one 2 days prior to leaving. They had to do a lateral flow. And then when we came back, you then got to do a PCR test 2 days after you arrived back. And again, so there are certain hoops to jump through, but we had a fantastic time. It was very hot. It was lovely. Hotel was excellent. So yeah.
So you went all inclusive?
All inclusive, yeah.
So did you get out amongst? Did you get out of the? See, I've never done all inclusive. Have you ever done all inclusive, Andy? You did in
Mexico. Yeah. But we still went to the town and stuff, but near town and all that. But I just stayed in the pool and the beach, getting JD in the morning.
Mate, honestly,
lying there like a beach whale, like, Andy, do you want your whiskey? Yes. I'm awake.
I mean, look, you can. I mean, people say, "Oh, you can go to all inclusive; it's free." Well, it isn't because you pay for it. You pay for it. It's obviously calculated within the cost of the holiday. So, but there's pros and cons. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people feel as though if you go all inclusive, not you're trapped there, but you feel as though actually you shouldn't really go out because it's sort of false economy because you paid for those facilities.
Yeah.
So why would you then go pay for something else on top? Some people will. We've done it. We've gone out and had a couple of evening meals. We were fortunate enough, the hotel we were in, there were, I think, 4 a la carte restaurants as well as the main buffet restaurant. And you can go to each one of them once per week. So effectively, we went a la carte restaurant, main buffet restaurant, a la carte restaurant, and there was a Tex-Mex, there was a Greek like taverna where they did like meze, and so they did cleft coast, stuff like that. There was a Chinese, so there were other options available, and we just spaced them out. So yeah, and obviously the beer it's locally produced. The lager isn't great, I'll be honest with you. But
yeah, it's a few years since I went to Athens, and I remember I wasn't a massive fan of. I can't remember what the local beer was. I've got a feeling it had an X in it. But I wasn't a huge fan of it. Although I do remember a bit of Greek from when I was there. Sionomi. Sionomi, θα ήθελα μια μπύρα κρυό και ένα άσπρο κρασί παρακαλώ. That means I would like a cold beer and a glass of white wine, please. I can't remember what Kim drank, but that's what I had.
I think my Greek sort of extends to yamas, and that's pretty much about it, which means cheers. And so I was like, yeah, at least every time they brought you beer, it's like yamas, and but no, look, it gives you an opportunity to try lots of things. You could go and try different drinks, different flavors, different shorts, depending on I don't like that. I'll go and try something else then.
Do you have an ouzo?
Did have an ouzo, had some tequila. In fact, I went to this one bar, it's like a poolside bar. And it's quite hot, so I said, can you do some, it's basically like I suppose like a lime and lemonade type soda. So can you just do one of them but put some tequila in? And he went, do you want the lime and lemonade and tequila, or do you want tequila and the lime and lemonade, how much do you want of each? And I just sort of went, whatever. So he's gone like this for tequila, he's gone. And then he went, shh. And I was like, so there's more tequila there.
Yeah, winning.
Brilliant, mate. So I took it. That's absolutely delicious. But there must have been like that. There must have been like that sort of tequila, and there must have been about that much juice. And you went in like, wow. But no, decent, mate. And look,
about 6 inches of juice was that?
In your world, yeah. But no, look, when you've got kids, it's great because they just eat. They literally ice cream, soft drinks, food.
Yeah.
Literally, that's all they do.
I tell you what I love is at the start he was bragging he managed to leave his beer alone for 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes into the podcast and it's gone.
Yeah, that's the second bottle though.
It's too nice.
That's the thing with delirium red. It is lethal. I tell you what as well, here's something as well that we know about Andrew. He's recently passed his motorbike test.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that, dude?
Pass with test, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Have to sort of jump through. I don't mean physical, not evil Knievel hoops. So, was there anything what did they pick you up
on? We do like 2 tests. So you do like your mod 1, which is in the compound, and you do like slow maneuvers and stuff like around cones and all that. So I did that, and then it's like a month later I did just a ride around Stockport. It's weird redoing a test again because I'm a car driver. It's sort of like what the roads sort of what the laws are and stuff. But when you're on a bike, you got to change your perception a bit. Like approaching junctions, like the lane is split into 3, so you got to like move into the right position and stuff like that. And it's a bit weird. As soon as I passed it, we had to drive back to like my instructor's house, and it's just like that was like the most freeing thing ever. Like, yeah, I didn't obviously rag it or anything, but you just like cruising around bends and stuff like that. It's brilliant. Something I've wanted to do probably since 2005, something like that. Maybe when I did my test, like early 2000s. I've always wanted to ride a bike, and now I can.
Yeah.
Just need to buy one now.
And so what's your sort of plan in terms of, I say, you've always said you want to ride a bike. Is it, get one of the big ones, get one of the sort of 500 or 750s and just, pick a road over the Pennines or over the Dales and just let it loose?
Well, I've got my eye on a 1400. It's a Harley, so they're bigger, but not as powerful.
Nice.
But because I've got a van that's it's from the 80s. I've been wanting a bike that's like that as well, so I can just hit it with a hammer or something like that to get it working. And I've got my eye on a couple, but it's just whether I'm allowed to buy it or not.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Maybe after Christmas or something. I'll treat myself.
Yeah. Well, priorities for you might be changing soon. So.
Well, indeed.
That's why I've got to
wait. That's the reason.
That's it. That's it. So you can escape.
Yeah. I did see a bike on eBay. There's a Harley with a sidecar, and I was saying Amy the kid and the dog can get in that. Get some little goggles on and stuff. But no, I'm well excited. Well, I think near enough every day now I'm just looking on all the marketplaces for a bike. If I find one cheap enough, I'll buy it. But I'll probably just wait till just after Christmas, I think, when it's a bit cheaper, and then I can tinker with it ready for summer. Yeah.
Are you set on the idea of a Harley? Yeah.
Well, I thought to myself, I'll get something different at first, because like cars, and obviously you can't go out and get like a Mustang or something. You want to, try different things, and I thought, I'll do that. But then riding these road, can't remember what they were now, like 650s. My hips were just a bit tight because it's like I got long legs and it's like folding underneath me. I was just like, I need a bigger bike. So I think it's got to be like a chopper thing. I got the beard for it now, anyway.
Yeah,
more grown up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you fit right in with that crown.
Just needs a Sons of Anarchy jacket and he's golden.
Yeah, absolutely. Just imagine cruising around the streets with like Stockport, whatever. He's like this big Sons of Anarchy t-shirt. I was like, look at me.
That'd be cool.
Surrounded by Domino's drivers.
Yeah. Does it ever appeal to you, dude, riding a bike?
No, not massively. I obviously got sort of friends and stuff that have bikes, and they post. My cousin and her husband, he is massively into bikes, and they bike sort of all around sort of Europe, and so she never did really until she met him. He then sort of effectively, convinced her to take a test, and she loves it. The freedom of just jumping on your bike and just going off. And they literally, they're both retired now, so they've got, they're like grown up kids sort of thing. It's like a new hobby, and it's just like they just go out, and there's photos in Switzerland and in Italy and then Wales and Scotland, and literally just all over the place.
I see. When you say cousin, I don't know if it's because I can't accept my age. I think it's someone like young. I think people like in their 20s. It's mad when you say that.
No, absolutely no. So and they love it. Most weekends, and I think they're part of like a bike club as well and stuff. So that there's a community that they meet, and they go out, and they go and fire the bikes up and go wherever, and then they have a couple of beers, they have a nice meal, and they then get up the following morning and do the whole thing again. And they obviously go around and pick certain roads because I've got a mate who drives a lot. He used to be a biker. He doesn't do as much now, but they would literally go and pick roads, like known roads. So it'd be like Kirkson Pass or Horseshoe Pass or whatever, and you think they're the known roads, and there's a couple of sort of hairpin ones that are a bit like sort of Switzerland or Italy or whatever. But no, so they go to search for these sort of mint riding roads, and they just head off there. But they love it, just the freedom of going and just, I say, winding your hair and all that. Although
I was about to say,
hair and a beard maybe, but what about you then? Are you not?
Do you know what? If I see a bike that looks cool, I have to admire it. So when Andy talks about the Harleys and things like that, so that, like, I love the Harley. Is it the Fat Boy, dude? Is that the really wide one?
Yeah, so one was in Terminator and all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that bike, I look at it and it looks awesome. However, one key fact about me is, as you well know, I am a little uncoordinated.
Just a little.
Yeah. So if I've got a car around me, that offers protection to me and those who were willing to risk it all and get in the car with me. And then the pedestrians around me that haven't taken that choice. But on a bike, I just think that for me would be asking for trouble.
You see, I knowing you, and obviously you're a big lad and all that, I don't suspect it would take much for you to sort of topple or wobble and pull up to set lights and just watch Ad sort of just go, straight over, and then he spends the next sort of 2 minutes trying to pick the bike up and stuff.
Full enough, actually, there's one thing I've always wanted is a penny farthing. And we know how that would end, don't we?
Yeah, that's not going to...
It's a trip to AD.
To be fair, it probably won't end very well for anybody on a penny farthing, but it's not for you, dude. No, that's one. No,
I'd love to see that going through Alsager and a penny farthing.
He's just there with like a nice sort of top hat or whatever, his monocle on, and he's just like this penny farthings. It'd be brilliant.
I'd love it. Every May where we get the opportunity, we go to the Knutsford May Day parade, and they always have them there. And these guys, and they look graceful while they do it. Yeah. They go along slowly, and then they dismount really easily. I think, I could do that. Yeah, come on. And then I remember. I fall off bikes generally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you fall downstairs, dude.
I do fall downstairs,
It's like, but it's like most things, you see people do it and you think, how hard can it be? And then you...
Hard, as it turns out,
yeah. But, anything, you see people doing things, you think, God, that looks really... They make that look really easy. And then you try it, whatever it may be, and it's like, it's not quite as easy as they make out, because they've been doing it for years. And I'm sure that they felt like you do. Back in the day before they tried doing whatever it is that they're doing, and they're riding a bike. These guys are on stilts and juggling anything that you do. You see them wobbling around like these guys. You think, I could do that. But then you think, God, I remember how balanced I was just using crutches. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not going to end well. No. You on a penny farthing? Nah.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Yeah.
But it would look pretty cool for the first 30 seconds.
Oh yeah. And after, when we're taking photos of him like crumpled heap, bleeding.
It's something to look forward to, isn't it?
Get into the casino quick.
Not hospital. That's not where you go with your broken bones in your face and ribs. Casino, isn't it? So you can have a little nap while you guys gamble.
And then if the casino guys think he's a tramp and say we're just about to throw him out, he's like, no, he's with me, dude, he's fine, don't worry about it.
I don't think he thought I was a tramp. I think he just thought I was a drunken fool.
Yeah, Trump might have been a bit hard. maybe just something that one too many.
Yeah. Well, there was a reason for that. Because I had
actually, that was a good. That was another good weekend that we've had. Topped off by ending up in a casino, which
every weekend that we've done in London's always ended up in a casino. Yeah,
that's probably down to me. Which
again, it is down to you because I don't gamble.
Yeah, and they think,
Andy's keeping quiet.
Yeah. And that might be one thing if we do go to Vegas. But I'd have to go and gamble.
Dude, you need to start planting that idea in Jenny's head right now.
Never going to happen, dude. But I can plant the idea. I can plant the idea.
I tell you, that would be epic.
Yeah. Look,
you're just doing it for the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mate, it was hard enough to get past. We're going to Edinburgh. We're going to podcast from Edinburgh. Let alone flipping Vegas. That's like.
Well, you see, you started off wrong. You said if you said Edinburgh, it's Whitburn.
Well, yeah, it is Whitburn. Yeah.
Which, as we know, is not Edinburgh.
No, it isn't.
But we're looking forward to it. Then, all seriously. That's only a couple of weeks away.
2 weeks, is it? No, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks this weekend. That's scary. That's crept up on us.
I know. Perhaps I have to start thinking about how we're actually going to get there.
Yeah, we do need to look into travel because we're going to meet Dave actually up in Edinburgh on Friday night and hopefully grab a beer with him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things actually about when we decided to change what we were doing with the podcast. Because when we changed to do beer, I liked it and it was good. And I actually think we did some pretty decent beer podcasts. And if you're tuning in from, I dropped business cards off with Liam from the Sandbach Beer Emporium and the guy at the BelgianBeer.com.
Yeah.
And actually, we actually recorded this last week, but then didn't use it. TBR were the first customers to use their click and collect service. So I thought that was pretty cool. But go check them out, BelgianBeer.com. I don't know if they're still doing the free glass now. That's probably gone for click and collect customers. I suspect that's all been used up because it's been a while now. But yeah, they've got a really decent range of beer you can try. But going back to what I was saying, when we decided to do it as a beer podcast, we've had ideas about stuff that we were going to do in the future. Like even just having Todd and Johnny on, how was that going to work as a beer podcast? Going up to Edinburgh, how was that going to work as a beer podcast? And truthfully, it wouldn't. So I'm kind of glad that we changed to the format that we're doing now.
We spoke a lot about, before we changed to focus on beer, we spoke a lot about 2020 and then 2021 going to be a big year because we've got plans to do this, we've got plans to do this. I've got follow-up ideas for certain podcasts and certain places that we want to go and visit. And we then joked that 2022 is now going to become very busy because we're going to do all the things that we couldn't do just due to COVID. So, and not all of those things would have necessarily fitted in with a beer podcast. Now, if we're going to go and, I say, if you excuse the pun, sort of resurrect the paranormal episode that we recorded ages ago, we said we wanted to go to an outside broadcast from a couple of venues that allegedly haunted and see whether we experienced anything. Now, I'm pretty sure that at that point, in that venue, we're going to have a beer or two.
Oh, 100%.
And we could, we talk about the beers we're going to have and the NFL weekend. We certainly will be having some beer at NFL weekend when we go up to Whitburn and we cover the disability dots. We will have a couple of beers and stuff. So it's not to say we've dropped the sort of the beer idea.
No.
There will be a theme through
100%.
the podcast in terms of the beers and the beers that we're drinking. It just might not necessarily now be the focus because there are certain things that we want to talk about, we want to discuss, certain things that might be topical, newsworthy stuff that actually we will struggle to get into a beer podcast, but actually people need to talk about. And I'm not going to go down the route of, Afghanistan, Taliban and all that. It's a bit political.
But if we want to, you can. That's what I like about
it. And we can talk about those things. So whilst the beer episode was great and I loved it and I loved doing the research on all the beers and drinking the different types of beers, that will probably still happen.
Yeah,
I'll still be drinking the different beers. It's just that there's a slight change in focus to the podcast, I think, is what we're saying, that and now allow us to talk more about a variety of different topics. And we're not going to go back to what we've done previously. We always look forward on TBR. We always look to try and evolve. The conversation element, I think, is going to be cool. So if I throw out and say, right, what are your thoughts on Love Island? What are your thoughts on Arsenal losing at the weekend? What are your thoughts on?
I'd rather talk about Love Island than Arsenal right now, and that says it all.
But it allows us to have those conversations without necessarily thinking, oh, I'm going to get the beer element in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
So while we're on it, what about Arsenal at the weekend?
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know where to start with Arsenal now, because actually, yeah, it was a home result, but it's against Chelsea. Now, let's be honest, Chelsea are, I'm not going to say they're going to win it this year, but they're going to be contenders. They've got a great squad and they've got a good side, and they're going to be challenging on every front, I think, for the trophies.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, from what I've seen from Arsenal so far, we're not going to be challenging for anything. We're not going to be challenging for anything. We were really, really poor. We've set a new record of 118 years. In the last 118 years, we have managed to win at least one game, the first two, or score a goal.
Yeah.
We've not done either.
Yeah.
And that's not what bothers me. It was the first game that really, really bothered me. We were appalling.
I think the Chelsea game, it's Chelsea, as you said, they're a good
Chelsea
side.
were good. Chelsea were great
They're
first
a good
half.
side. But your first game, it was a promoted team.
Yeah.
It's the first game in the Premiership season, not just also the first game, but the first game of the brand new season. If you can't get up for that, and I know it was away,
Yeah,
if you
but
can't, if it's Arsenal.
Their players, they were first to every single ball. They were up for it.
Yeah.
They just wanted it more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our players didn't want it, but we weren't sure. Emile Smith-Rowe, Kieran Tierney, fantastic in that first game.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
But those are the
But
only two.
when you've got people like Emmanuel Petit come out, one of the Invincibles, he's come out and he said, actually, he says, I don't really want to watch Arsenal anymore. He says, there's no fight. He says, there's no fight, there's no passion, there's no...
There isn't, and that's the problem. When you think about Petit, you think about Vieira, you think about Tony Adams at the back. That's what we're lacking. That leader. That's someone who's going to stick their foot in and change a game. I could just remember games when Vieira played, and if we weren't performing, He wasn't going to accept it.
Yeah.
He didn't accept it. He changed games in terms of how he led with his mentality, with his physicality. But we're missing that.
But your Arsenal Invincibles team, you could always go through almost 1 to 11. There's a couple that maybe weren't leaders as such, but Seaman, yeah. Then you know, Adams, Keown, Winterburn, Vieira, Petit. You know, do you have Gilberto Silva in there as well?
Yeah, Silva played, yeah. Silva was in the
literally,
Invincibles, yeah. Petit wasn't, Silva was.
All of those, yeah, sorry, all of those.
But still, Petit was a leader. Petit was a leader. You know.
And okay, so Perez and Lumber perhaps weren't leaders, but they were leaders in what they did in terms of the passion and the hunger and that. But just doesn't seem that you've got it, or anybody now that can step up and, you know, you think, God, if Tony Adams was around, he would absolutely be kicking his own team to try and, you know, get something out of them.
Yeah, never mind facing Arteta or Wenger. You wouldn't want to put in a performance like these guys have been putting in and then go and face Tony Adams or Patrick Vieira or Manuel Petit.
Who's going to go in that dressing room and give him a roasting?
Yeah.
You know, okay, Arteta, but okay, can he come across and do the hairdryer treatment? Don't know, but you'd be worried about the senior players, wouldn't you? They'd be the ones you'd be worried about.
I think if you look at the players we've bought as well, they're all young players. We've not signed a player in this transfer window, I think, who's older than 23. So we're planning for the future. But right now, I think, and don't get me started on Arsenal Fan TV. I was chatting with this with Neil yesterday, who's my brother-in-law. I hate it. He says it's just a joke. You know, why does this Arsenal Fan TV, why does it get so much attention?
I don't know.
I'll tell you why it gets so much attention, because it makes us a laughing stock.
Yeah.
It's the other fans sharing it.
Yeah, and the problem is on Twitter, and there are other social media outlets, but I use Twitter a lot. You know, you've got other, as you just said, you've got other teams, fans retweeting Arsenal, and look at this clown, look at this guy, the joke of a club, and they retweet it. And just
Spurs haven't won a trophy in years, and they're laughing at us with some of the stuff these guys are sharing, and I don't blame them.
It is funny.
Clowns.
It is funny, but yeah, like I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with them.
Apart from Big Sam, there's no one really that will.
Oh, even joke about that.
There's no other decent manager. I mean, he should have gone for like Nuno or something like that.
No, I don't think so. I think Arteta needs to be given a crack at the whip. I really do.
He needs to buy some proper players first. I mean, just one marquee signing will do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you look at who signed. I'm not going to, you know, Ben White, he's got a little bit of stick on social media. Aaron Ramsfield had a whole lot of stick on social media off the Arsenal fans, which is a shame. When you think about it in the past, when we bought the players.
Aaron Ramsdale's one.
Really?
When I was head of year at St. Peter's, so head of year for 3 or 4 years, whatever, took a cohort through. She was my assistant head of year.
Get out.
No word of a lie.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And you know, obviously back in the day, I remember saying stories about, you know, we've got to take Aaron training, because I think he was on Everton's books at one point, and then Bolton, they should take him up to Bolton, so they travel from effectively Stoke up to Bolton.
That's a good run, yeah. Well, that's not too bad, I suppose.
And they said they'd do that. Did they do that 3 times a week? And you know, when parents sort of say, "Oh, I've got to take my lad, he's into football, he's a goalkeeper," and you're just like, "Oh right, okay." You never really think anything of it, and I can't remember the conversation. She went, "Yeah, he's." Was he signed for Chesterfield or somebody? And I was like, oh, right, okay, yeah, we are decent, maybe. And then all of a sudden you'd think, oh, he's England under-21 keeper. Yeah. Well, he must be decent.
Oh, yeah.
And then he went, and then he got his move to Sheffield United. Great. And I messaged his mum and sort of said, oh, you know, great and all of that. And then he's obviously moved to Arsenal. And I didn't put down. I felt like I said, I hope you're not still working, because I hope he's sorting you out for the amount of trips up and down the motorway that you've done. But interesting stat. And Aaron Ramsdale signs for Chesterfield in whenever it was, and the season after they get relegated. Aaron Ramsdale signs for Sheffield United the season after they get relegated. Yeah. Aaron Ramsdale now signs for Arsenal. And I'm just going to leave it out there. That's all I'm saying. And I'm casting no dispersion on Aaron Ramsdale's ability as a goalkeeper. His mother was a lovely person. She was a fantastic worker. She was very good at her job. And I'm not saying Aaron isn't.
No.
I'm just throwing that stat out there.
I'll tell you what, though. I watched Burnley. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the first half.
But why let Martinez go? What? That's the biggest mistake. Because obviously, was it Aston Villa he ended up going to?
Yeah.
He's
we've lost some decent keepers over the years, who've been sat in that number 2 position. But I don't know. But certainly, I'll tell you what, Leno made some great saves on the weekend.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, and you know what, and I joke about Aaron, and I wish him all the luck in the world. And his mum was a workaholic friend as well, and she was lovely. So yeah, a bit of a sort of a not really claim to fame, but I
tell you what, I'd also be interested to hear any of our listeners if they got any claims to fame, if they know a relative of somebody famous.
Absolutely, yeah, I know, and it's great that it's worked out. But yeah, if there's anyone out there that's claim to fames,
do you know any Andy?
No, I was trying to think of something humorous, but no, I can't even say that.
My cousin Joe, and like me, and my cousin Jack, we're all massive Alan Partridge fans, if you like, about Alan Partridge. But Joe went to university with the lady who plays Lynn Benfield's son. So, which is, again, a relative of someone who's famous. I always quite enjoyed that one. I thought, oh, gee whiz, that would be,
Look, and, I'd sort of stop short of sort of messaging his mum saying, "Do you think he didn't get any tickets?" sort of thing. But
they'll always get 2. Keep your mind.
Well, I thought that for Arsenal Link now,
that's it.
But just I worked for a few years. She was my assistant head of year.
How have Everton done? I've not really followed any other football. I know United drew on the weekend 1-1.
Yeah, so we played 2. We beat Southampton at home in the first day, 3-1. Obviously, Benitez is sort of first league game, and that's a whole different story. And I might get onto that in a minute, actually. But yeah, so we beat Southampton 3-1. We were losing that game, and then second half we were excellent. Calvert-Lewin scored. Also, Everton fans are ridiculous, by the way. Some Everton fans, it's like they hammer him, and like if you took out all of last season's penalties, then he was equal joint top scorer in the Premier League. Because like Salah takes penalties and Kane takes penalties. So if you take out the penalties, now actually, interestingly, we got a penalty at the weekend and he took it, so maybe he's now our penalty taker. But but he misses a chance, and all of our fans, he's rubbish. He's all in there, and it's like, give that a break. He got he got 20 odd goals last season. Give him a go. And I think. So we won the first game. We then drew against Leeds. We drew 2-2. But by all accounts, we create belting game. Absolutely 100-mile-an-hour games.
Bielsa's got a great team there. His ethics in playing football, you can't fault him.
Yeah, and actually go back to what we said about Arsenal. Would you like the hairdryer treatment? I wouldn't want it from Bielsa. I bet he can. No. I bet he can throw it out there. So we've not lost. Calvert-Lewin scored again at the weekend. So I think we're 5th, 6th, something like that. We play Huddersfield tomorrow in the Carabao.
It's better than 19th. Or 18th, I think we are.
It is. And I was just talking about Benitez, and one of the things I thought interesting was, and I know he hasn't gone back to Everton, but he went effectively back to their nearest rival. There's obviously a massive Liverpool connection, and at one point he called us a small club or something. But he then, in his defence, he went, "I've got a job. I'm a professional person. So if I go and work for this company in the business world, I can go and work for one of their competitors, and I will then try my very best for them as well." I'm a professional person. And actually, a lot of the Everton fans that go to the games, they were saying the difference in what Benitez did than what Ancelotti did. I never expected to hear myself say that, but they say even the players, they feel as though react better under Benitez than they did Ancelotti. So look, it's one of those. But interestingly, should you ever go back? So Lukaku's gone back to Chelsea, and I know he took a couple of clubs in between, but Lukaku's gone back to sort of Chelsea. Should you ever go back to a club that you've had success at, or should
This from an Everton fan. How many times do you have Howard Kendall back? Was it 4?
A couple of times. But so if let's say did Henry come? Did Henry? So Henry returned to Arsenal.
The King returned. Yeah, the King did return, and obviously scored.
Yeah,
he scored a few important goals.
Should you ever go back, or what happens if you move clubs, or you go to play for one of your rivals? So Sol Campbell back in the day went Spurs to Arsenal, and you're just thinking, wow, that's created a whole heap of trouble. And obviously,
especially on a free transfer as well.
Yeah, I mean, Benitez is the first manager that's done it for 100 odd years to go from Liverpool, and there's been lots of players that have done it. But going to go and play for, I suppose, a bit like, I don't know, who are these Steelers? So, who are your main derby against? Sort of thing.
The real challenge is, you would probably say, would be the Ravens, and
right. So let's say,
well, Villanueva. He's gone from to be fair, Steelers released him. He's signed with it. I'm sure it's the Ravens he signed with.
But so with Big Ben, let's say maybe not now because he's sort of towards the end.
Well,
if he was to go sign for the Ravens,
well, you know who Big Ben wanted to play for though. Big Ben's from Ohio. Big Ben's a Cleveland boy.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So of all all the first picks they've ever had, and they overlooked him, and he came and signed for the Steelers. And up until they signed, what's that dude's name? Who's playing for him now? Who's their quarterback? I can't remember. Baker Mayfield, yeah. Up until Baker Mayfield, Big Ben had won more games in Cleveland than their last 7 quarterbacks.
so if he signed for the Ravens, and the Ravens obviously play the Steelers because it's part of their divisional games, what reception would he get?
He's not going to get a good reception, is he? Let's be honest. And Benitez probably won't either. But the thing about Benitez, and if let's say a horror situation where Big Ben did go and do something like that, he is going to be geared up to. He's going to want to win.
Yeah,
he is going to want to win that game, isn't he?
So, and it's a bit like do you celebrate? Do you celebrate a goal against your old club?
Adebayor. Fucking Adebayor.
Is that one who ran the whole length of the pitch?
What a bastard. I liked Adebayor when he played for us, but I tell you what, I lost all respect for him that day.
Brilliant, literally. But so I've got. I mean, obviously Mitch Trubisky, he plays the Bills now, and they're not one of our divisional rivals. But we played them pre-season, and there's this massive. We got beat by them, so don't talk about that. But there's this. I mean, to be fair, our offensive line is non-existent. There was a pundit, and I don't fully remember who it was. There was a pundit that said, actually, the Bears' offensive line is so bad that actually it will cost somebody their life because they're literally like your quarterback's just going to die basically. Jesus, your O-line just allowing the opportunity just to rip. So Mitch plays for the Bills. He'll be a decent backup, and I think he struggled a little bit, and he'll now be a career number 2.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's going to start over, but interestingly, the Bears fans that went to the game actually gave him a half decent reception. So and that just got me thinking, like, if you go to one of your rivals, and whilst the Bills aren't necessarily, what type of reception would you get?
There are players that have had, like Fabregas, when he's come back to Arsenal, has mostly had a decent reception, apart from that time he dived to try and win a penalty. But other than that, he's always had a decent one. But while we're on American football, actually, Steelers are 3-0, and do you know who they played on the weekend, Andy?
No.
They had a little game against the Lions. I think we were 26-0 up going into the fourth quarter. Well, we took
we're the Arsenal of the NFL.
No, that's a comparison.
I was going to agree with that. I thought, no, that hurts me a little bit.
I know Arsenal are 19th, but we're not that bad. I mean, we look. We'd have a little optimism. Obviously, we drafted a quarterback. We traded to get a quarterback.
You got Andy Dalton though. That's going to tarnish things.
Honestly, like the fume on the social media regarding Andy Dalton is horrendous. Lots of people are saying because our offensive line is so bad, they wouldn't throw Fields in because actually week 1 because actually. He'll just get injured and therefore losing the whole. Yeah. So let Andy Dalton.
Yeah, if you want a quarterback injured in week 1, it's Andy Dalton.
Throw Andy Dalton in there, And look, I mean, I don't know whether I think we still have, but we've got Nick Foles as well. Yeah. So he'd be. I mean, he's a decent backup. He's not that mobile and stuff, but there was a montage of basically there's like wide receivers that like do a bit of the shake and bake, and then they might run a post or they might run an out or whatever, and the ball misses them. And someone's done a montage on social media, and all you can see is Andy Dalton like his head in his hands, and it isn't like him throwing it, but there's like 15, 20 seconds. This is what the Bears fans are going to get used to. The receivers like this, and the ball's like over there somewhere. Yeah, that's going to be him.
I'm pretty sure they could have put that montage together if they wanted to.
Honestly, so look, I tweeted out there a couple of the guys that I think Mr. English Bear is on Twitch. I think he is, and he tweeted me back, and he was like, "I'm not sure Fields is ready. He will be." But then you sort of blame Nagy. There's not that much love for Matt Nagy at the moment. Lots of people saying he shouldn't be calling the plays and all this sort of stuff. So there's lots of stuff going on in Chicago. And that tempers the optimism a little bit, because obviously when we got Fields, it was like not quite the missing link to our offense, but Mitch had not been great.
You never know, though. When that season starts, players step up, but you don't always expect to step up.
Yeah, and it's pre-season. American football pre-season is slightly different than UK.
People
soccer.
hold off. Yeah, people hold off, don't they?
You never really know until week one, because you might be trying different formations, you might be trying different moves, and it's slightly different because it's a lot more strategy based, I suppose, than soccer. Than our game. Our game is moving towards that. You look at the playlist, and it's like, actually, if the ball is here, I want you to be here and here, and if the ball is there, I want you to be...
This is probably what I dread the most. One of the things I love about American football is the media and how much the circuit surrounds it. And you've got the great programs like Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
English football, we have something called All or Nothing. And you know who the focus of that is, don't you, this year?
It's you guys.
Yeah. I don't want to watch that.
That's good. That is going to be mint. That is good. Because back in, was it School of Hard Knocks? And then they did All or Nothing was, they
follow
Amazon.
Yeah, they do,
an NFL.
And and the football one is going to be on Amazon as well. I don't have Amazon Prime at the minute. I might get it and then cancel it when that one comes out.
Spurs were the first one. Oh no, they did Man City, didn't they? Man City then did Spurs, and then.
Well, no, when Spurs did it, and this is one of those tweets that's going to come back and haunt me. I tweeted it out shared it out like Spurs All or Nothing. Spoiler alert: it's nothing.
Well, obviously, I mean, they must have. I mean, Amazon must have thought they'd hit goal there. Because obviously, Mourinho then gets and the circus surrounding him. That they must have been rubbing their hands together there. And I watched that. I watched that, and I watched the Man City one, and I probably will watch the Arsenal one. I've got Amazon Prime, so it's like no bother.
I do want to get it sorted just for the Clarks and stuff on there, and also deliveries, obviously. But gee whiz, I ain't gonna watch that. I can't sit through that. Not the way it's going. We need to see a big turnaround. We need.
Is it? I'm trying to think who did it. Was it Tom Hardy? Was it Tom Hardy? He certainly did. I think he did the narrator bit for the Spurs. I don't know if it's going to be the same guy. But yeah, I mean, look, NFL's just around the corner. Is it net 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. 2 weeks around. Early September.
So, there's a bit of optimism surrounding that for me, anyway. Are we going to have our normal bet?
Yeah, I'm happy. Steelers have got a good side. We've brought in. I think we've got like Hall of Fame. Not Hall of Fame. Sorry, we've got in Pro Bowlers in every single position in the line.
Because obviously Andy jumped on board with.
I think, to be fair with the Lions, it's almost like stitching him up a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's great. So, what we should do, right, is we have a bet.
Yeah.
And whichever team. Now, do you go whichever team has the best, or whichever team has the worst record, Andy?
Yeah. Well, the Bears can give them. No, it will be the Lions.
Do we say, and it'd be interesting to see whether he takes a bet, that the team with the most losing record foots the bill for a meal for three of us at some. It doesn't have to be
McDonald's drive-through.
I was going to say, I ring up Ronald McDonald now.
That's it, yeah.
It could be the outlet of the loser's choice. He
could give us a backy on his Harley.
I'll get the sidecar.
Can you imagine? At the convenience sidecar,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, let's not have a Big Mac.
Even in McDonald's, what other food outlets are available? Yeah, but I don't know. Just as bad. I mean, we've had this running bet. I don't think I've ever paid up, so I must know you putting hundreds of pounds at the moment. But.
Well, you look at the history of those of the Steelers and how they've done in terms of losing seasons. So the last time the Steelers had a losing season was something like 19 years ago. The next one is 7, which is obviously the Patriots. And then you go down, I think you guys is 1, loads with 0 because they lost last year.
Yeah.
But the next is like, from us, it's like 17, then it's 9, then 3. People get on Tomlin's case a lot. And
He's done an amazing job.
You cannot fault that guy.
The thing that he did with, obviously, the levy on Bell, he
stood his ground. I respect him for it. I wouldn't look, Brown had to go. But there's still a little bit of me when Bell wasn't finding the team, he was slated by the Chiefs and his attitude and approach to it. And we always knew it was questionable, the old Cheech and Chong business that he used to do.
But he just showed what a good job Tomlin did in terms of, managing that, deflecting from that, still getting a tune.
We've got a very exciting running back that we signed this time, a guy called Najee Harris, and obviously Harris has got a pretty strong tradition in Pittsburgh and winning Super Bowls at the running back position. Franco Harris being one, but Najee Harris looks an exciting prospect. James Conner obviously has moved on. I forget where he's gone to. I think he's gone to Arizona. And I wish him well. I think he will do well, but it just didn't quite work out for him. He was a little bit injury prone, and everybody wanted him to do well. Connor's shirt sold really well in Pittsburgh.
But it's weird because there's always that sense, and I suppose it goes back to what I mentioned about Lukaku and stuff. People going to your rivals. There's always that sense that not quite that they're on the wane. So you've let Connor go, and it's like, I just know for a fact that if we play him, he's going to have an absolute. And then you're going to look at him and go, why did we let him go?
Yeah.
And there's always that. Why did we let him go? What
That said,
they could still do a job for us.
That said, we played Le'Veon Bell and he had a stinker.
Really.
But the thing is, Bell was only as good as the O-line that was protecting him.
Yeah.
And he didn't have that when he went to the Jets.
Yeah. Weirdly, going back to some running backs and stuff, it's the same when we let Matt Forte. When we let him go, and I thought we let him go a little early, and I don't know the intricacies of the cap and what that meant in terms of him, but Matt Forte, then I think he went to the Jets as well and did really well for them and had prolonged his career and stuff. So you sort of think, why don't we let him go just that little bit early? But you don't know whether or not it's the cap or because they don't really get. And there's no big like transfer as fee, is there? It's all to do
different, very
it's
different.
The caps and there's different levels of players and stuff. So it's interesting to see whether or not UK football or soccer, to our American listeners, go down that route, and we do some form of salary cap, and you're allowed a franchise player, which would be an Henry or a Bergkamp. But then, would it work? Would it not work?
I'd like to see it, to be honest with you, and that's coming from an Arsenal fan who literally, I think we've spent the most so far in this transfer window.
We've spent $1.5 million, I think.
I don't even know.
On Jamari Gray, who's good, who looks actually.
Yeah, listen.
So, he's better than Walcott, Balassi that we spent a combined 60-odd million on, 70-odd million on, and it's like, do you know what I mean? So we signed him, and then we signed Andros Townsend.
And that's. I think almost if FIFA talks about doing this fair play business, and obviously they punished Man City a couple of years ago, kicked him out of the Champions League for a year. I don't know. I think I would like to see something like that happen in football, but truthfully, we all know it won't because the game is run by money now. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of money in the NFL in terms of the media and the marketing and what they make out of it. It is very money oriented. I ain't saying that it isn't.
Yeah.
But in terms of the financial fair play, it's there because if you're as lousy as the Bears or the Browns or the Lions, you get the first pick in the next year.
Yeah.
So you get the first pick of the best players.
Yeah.
And so it's cyclical, which is why teams like the Patriots and what they achieved, as much as it sticks in my throat with Brady and Gronkowski over the years, for them to do that is phenomenal. For the Steelers to have the record that they have is phenomenal. We brought in the players around it and built it around that core.
And you're right, and the draft does work because it does allow the teams, and okay, you might get a situation where, and I don't know whether you get win bonuses, but you might get a situation where who had the first pick this year?
Just for the change,
Dolphins.
yeah, I think the Dolphins have got 4 picks this year because of all the trades that they've done.
So let's say the Dolphins. So let's say 2 or 3 games out from the end of last season, you might be 0-12 or 1-12. So you think, do we throw the last couple of games just so that we get the first pick? And that because actually, if we win the next 2, so therefore I don't know whether or not the win bonuses come in or. I say, like in football, like appearance money or goal money or whatever. But does a franchise throw the last 2 or 3 games?
That's a question.
To then effectively ensure that they get the first pick. Because if the Dolphins pick up 2 wins in the last 3 games and they go to 3-12 or 3-13 after 16 games or whatever there is now,
17
games. So if you go to that, there's a team that might lose their last 2 or 3 that effectively finish below you in the pecking order, so they then get number 1. So you could put all your eggs in one basket and right, we need the quarterback, we're going to go out and buy, or we're going to go out and draft X. He's coming out of college, he's the number 1 college quarterback, we're going to go get him. We've scouted him, we've looked at him, we've offered it him, he wants to come to us. You win your last 2 games and another team lose their last 2. All of a sudden you go from number 1 to number 2. Do you have to trade up then to then get number 1? No team's going to give up a first round.
And this is the other thing that I always think about this. So we know this year it's going to be Big Ben's last year. Yeah. You know, we all knew that last year he's probably going to have another throw at it. This year, I'm almost certain it's his last year. So we either need to go with one of the 3 guys we got there, Dobbs and Rudolph. It ain't them. Haskins, I actually like the look of that guy, so maybe he is going to be the next guy that follows suit. But you know that we'd have to have a bad season. You have to have a bad season to get that good pick.
Yeah.
But that ain't the Steelers' way.
No, and that's we were, I think, relatively lucky. Obviously, there's the famous we took Mitch and we could have had Mahomes. You know, so we took Trubisky and we could have had Mahomes, and you're just like, what have we done? But look, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and nobody expected Mahomes to go on and do what he did. But
I think some people did.
Yeah, but maybe I think. Yeah. You know,
Mahomes was a talent. He was a talent.
Generational talent. And that was the problem with Mitch. He was a decent player, but he wasn't a generational talent. We've gone out and drafted Fields at number 4, 5, 6 overall. So we traded up to get him. It was either 3rd QB to go or something. Mm-hmm. So we traded up to get him, and it's not quite all eggs in one basket, but he is decent. Do you know what I mean? So then you think, okay, so where are we going to finish this time? But in order for him to be decent, then you have to have a decent offensive line. You have to have a decent running backs and decent wideouts. And that's why there's this issue with Allen Robinson. Is he going to sign? Because without Justin Fields, is Robinson going to sign? Is he going to renew? Because he doesn't want to be catching Hail Marys from Andy Dalton, because Andy Dalton will be thrown on the side of the bloody pitch. You know, so it's all these... and you try and wrap that up and you think, actually, where do we want to finish? Do we want to trade up? And it is massively complicated, but... And I suppose that's why it couldn't work in this country for football, because you can't rank footballers, can you? You know, we haven't got really academy systems now, anymore. So you can't rank them coming out of college. So I'm not sure that works. The salary cap, I'll be interested to see whether or not
that needs to happen. I think
it works, because I think that will make teams think a little bit more about.
I think that needs to happen. I do think that needs to happen. It will take away Man City's. You know, people like that who can literally just throw money at players, and have them sitting on the bench makes no difference.
Yeah. And now whether or not it's some sort of, it's a percentage of your turnover or a percentage of your gate seats or a percentage, so there has to be some formula in it that not quite levels the playing field, because you're not going to get somebody, no disrespect, I don't know, like West Brom, that are going to go out and be able to afford a £90 million player. But they might be able to go out and afford a £20 million, £25 million player. That then Man City are looking at a £90 million player. So everything's relative.
Yeah.
But I think something has to come in, because otherwise, and I can't quite believe the cheek of Arsenal wanting to join the European Super League and they're languishing in 19th place. But
here's the thing now.
And actually, that seems to have gone quiet. What's going on with all of that?
Well, now, I'm not going to reveal my source, but I was chatting to someone about this, and actually, he said that it was just sold wrong. In terms of the way, the idea behind this wasn't greed, believe it or not, because that is the way that it was portrayed and that it appeared. But ultimately, these big clubs who are in those competitions on a regular basis are looking at UEFA and how much money they hand over to them to organise that competition, thinking UEFA are taking millions off us.
Yeah.
When actually, if we organise something similar, then we could be keeping that money for ourselves and sharing it out amongst these clubs and actually getting a fairer share of the pot.
And I get that. The cynic in me thinks that Real Madrid and Barcelona were the driving force behind that European Super League.
Possibly.
And you only have to look at the level of debt that Barcelona and Real Madrid are in to then put two and two together and think, well, maybe they've thought if we can have a game on Champions League week and we don't have to go and play, disrespect Ludogorets or whoever, Links or whoever, and we can go and play Man United, Man City, Arsenal. That will generate more money.
Stop smirking, Andy.
So the cynic in me thinks that maybe Barcelona, Real Madrid appear to be the driver behind it.
They probably were, but I think it was very much sold as greed by these people. But I just wonder if there is a little bit of actually, why are we paying UEFA for this money? Why are they taking the cut? And obviously we know in terms of UEFA and their history of money making along the way, it's a little bit questionable.
Yeah.
And that actually it was sold and approached all wrong. Ultimately, let's face it, if they want it to happen, it will eventually happen.
I suspect it will happen, and I suspect it'll happen in my lifetime. Obviously, I think within the next 5 years, 10 years, I think it will be muted again, whether or not it's marketed and portrayed in the same way as it was this time. I don't think the idea has gone away. And now with international travel being so easy, and obviously not now because of COVID and stuff, but it's easy to jump on a plane and go from London to Barcelona. You think of NFL teams that go East Coast to West Coast. That's thousands of miles. You've got logistics, and American football teams probably take more gear and more equipment than football teams, but the logistics of getting from A to B in Europe is not that hard. Facilities are fantastic, airports are fantastic. You're probably going to charge your own private jet. You're there, you're in the coach, you're at the hotel. It isn't that hard.
No.
And I suspect that in the next 5 to 10 years, it probably will happen in some form. Who goes in there and what the qualification criteria is, if there is any, or is it an invite only? I think the issue for me is there was no relegation from it, so literally it was a closed shop.
Yeah.
That for me, yes, Arsenal were one of the big six. Arguably, they're probably not now.
Financially, they're one of the big six. And that's. I'm not suggesting on the pitch we are, because.
So should you turn around and say that?
I'm not arguing our case to be there, by the way.
I'm just saying, but so what happens if Leicester want to get in? Because actually, the team over the last 3 years, more Premiership points than anybody else is Leicester, because
truth be told, they deserve it more than we do, and based on the last 3 years.
So do they get in? But because Leicester's not known in Milan and not known in Barcelona and not known in Turin or whatever, then they probably don't get in. Arsenal get in.
No, it's rough. It like you say, that needs in terms of football, it needs to be based on performance rather than and it should have relegation.
It should.
It's something which again is missing from American sports. Yeah, it doesn't seem to detract from the competitiveness of it.
And there was an analogy. Interestingly, they talked about relegation and promotion, and the problem that you've got is if you have a European Super League and you've got those 12 teams, the bottom two fall out. Well, who comes in? Because you can't just say, well, the next guy from England comes in, because what about the teams from Germany, Spain, France? So it has to be, if it's in that format, it has to be a closed shop.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
very true.
Because it's only those 12 teams.
That's interesting, dude. You're quite right. Yeah.
Because Monaco, if they finish second, so Paris Saint-Germain go in there, and then Arsenal, Spurs drop out. It can't just be 2 English teams that go in, because the team that finishes third in Germany or second in France or whatever, they'll turn and go, what about us? So it just raises like a whole raft of issues in it. So
100%. Yeah, certainly the details need ironing out.
Yeah, but I think it will happen at some point.
So we're coming up to round about the hour mark. But before we close up, I want to share some information with Andy, because Andy asked a question the other day about Bulgarian beer, didn't you, dude?
Did I?
You did, yeah. Yeah, when we were doing the podcast about beer, you talked about Bulgarian beer, and I said I was going to ask my cleaner. So I asked my cleaner today. He's been in. He works on a Monday. I asked him, what are the most popular beers in Bulgaria? And he looked at me and said, I'm not going to do the accent because it's just going to be offensive. No, it's just going to be offensive.
It's like 4 hours.
Very nice. I like it. And he literally said, "Why do you want to know? You're playing some kind of stupid game." It's like, no, I'm interested. We do a podcast. We talk about beer. We talk about other things like that. And then he said, "You're taking the piss out of me." It's like, no, just tell me. Just tell me about your Bulgarian beer. And I had to Google a lot of it afterwards because my spelling was appalling. So the one he said, dude, was best was a beer called Zagorka, which is a 5% one, which he said was very, very similar to Stella. And then there was a Karmanitsa, which is 4.4, and a Dart, which is 6%, a Shemensko, which is 4.3. And I tell you what, Googling stuff like this, I get the spelling wrong, and it was taking me onto some very strange sites. And what was the other one? Ariana. I thought that was mainly Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande, yeah.
5.5%. So there you go, dude. There's 5 Bulgarian beers for you. And there was quite a few more that you mentioned that I couldn't quite discern what you were saying to write down.
So that's
quite interesting. I thought they would have had. I thought they would have had Czech beer or something like that. You know, like some neighbouring country or something like that.
When I googled it, actually, it was Desperados, Heineken, and Amstel were all popular over there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't know why. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
But
indeed.
Maybe for next week then, we try and get a Bulgarian.
Good luck with that one, dude.
Yeah.
I've not heard of any of those things, and I'm guaranteeing if you ain't got those notes written down in front of you, you're not going to find anyway, because you're not going to remember them.
No, but you've got the notes written down. But you in retail, if you haven't ever heard of them, then we've got bobbing chance.
But I've never been to Bulgaria. Bulgaria's supposed to be a great place to go on holiday.
Meant to be lovely. And I've never been, but Croatia's similar. Some of that you don't really, but Croatia I've heard loads of good things about. Loads of people said Croatia's beautiful. So yeah. So at least we know when we next go to Bulgaria, or go to Bulgaria for the first time.
Yeah.
That we've got some beers to look out for.
I'll learn a little bit of the lingo before we go. Don't you worry about that.
Oh, happy days.
So who wants to say their goodbyes first?
Yeah, but look, I've enjoyed tonight. It felt strange in a way because it hasn't quite been as sort of scripted, and I've obviously spoken a lot. You've spoken a lot. Andy hasn't spoken a vast amount, but then he never does.
Well, as Ron said, though, don't it? Me and you talk so much, we don't really give him the opportunity.
No, and and maybe that's something moving forward that we need to give him the opportunity to talk about. But I've enjoyed it. It's been
shaking his head.
It's been good. And he's like the all-seer. He's like the watcher, and he's like the overseer who just sits there. And
it was like the podcast last week though, when we were sort of saying, like, when Todd asked us why do we get into podcast, and he just comes out with that comment at the end. So I can drink in the week.
Yeah.
It's old. It's a license to thrill, isn't it? Drinking on a skill night. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it every night.
But no, I mean, some of the things that I thought I might talk about tonight, I haven't really.
Yeah,
Left turns galore. We've gone through 4, 5, 6 different topics we've been talking about. So I've enjoyed it. It's been good. So look forward to the next one.
I tell you what, dude, I've enjoyed it too. Andy?
Yeah, I prefer being more relaxed. But all I'd say is tune in next week, see if we change it again.
Listen, the plan is not to change it. The plan is to do what we want to do. And if people listen, then people listen. If people don't listen, well, that's just the way it goes. Yeah, that's their loss. We'll pick up the listeners elsewhere with a little bit of luck. But for me, I'm with you guys. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this way more than I thought. It's just 3 guys sitting down and having a conversation. I just think this is what it should have been probably for the previous 80-odd episodes.
Yeah, but look, it's a journey, isn't it? We've evolved. We started out with what we felt. We've changed it. We've adapted it. We're going to now evolve into what we're now doing. And who's to say that in another 12 months? I'd never thought we'd been somebody doing it 12 months down.
No, I mean,
we are.
Really...
So who's to say that in another 12 months it's not going to look slightly different or better? We don't know. So
100%.
We'll just go with it.
I remember my nephew Henry saying, basically, he says, so your podcast, and bear in mind he's 7, so your podcast is basically you play a little bit of music at the start and then you talk about yourself for an hour. It's like, I'm not sure who said that to you, dude, but no, that's not quite the case. Hey, guess what? It is now.
It is.
Take care, guys.